Welcome to our one day in Rome vlog, part of the highlights of the Mediterranean cruise on the Marella Voyager. We're ported in Civitavecchia, the port of Rome. We were in this port from 7 AM till 7 PM.
We booked an excursion called Rome on Your Own. This was £44 per person through Marella Cruises. We pre-booked this before we travelled on cruise control. There's two options for this trip which are the same price, 10 hours or 7 hours. The times include travel time to and from the ship, so the 10-hour option gives roughly 7 hours in Rome, and the 7-hour option gives roughly 4 hours in Rome. The time in Rome is 100% yours to do what you want with, just meet at the meeting point at the specified time for your coach travel back. Here are our tickets. These were delivered to our cabin and told us which coach to get on and what time to be there. Our departure time was 8:30 AM, which was good as we had plenty of time to get ready and get breakfast in the morning.
During the journey, we were given the history of the port. It was developed by the Roman Emperor Trajan to connect Rome to the sea for trade, and now it connects cruise passengers.
On your right hand side you can see the symbol of Civitavecchia, the most famous monument, commonly called the Michelangelo Fortress. The real original name of this building would be Julia Fortress, because the Pope Julius II in the 1500s wanted this fortress to be built to protect the city. But anybody knows that by the nickname Michelangelo Fortress, because the very famous Italian artist from Florence, Michelangelo Buonarroti, designed the main tower.
We stopped at a service station 30 minutes into the journey. Here there were toilets and nice food and drinks. Back on the coach, we were given maps which had illustrations of the main site, so they were really easy to follow. We were also given the history of some of the main monuments in Rome, as well as advice on how to get there. They showed us where the drop-off and pick-up points would be, so even if you had zero prior research, you knew exactly where you were starting and you had a map to get around, so you wouldn't feel completely lost. The guide even offered to walk people to the nearest hop-on, hop-off bus stop. We exchanged phone numbers in case of emergencies. He gave great info and advice on the coach, but once you're in Rome, the excursion is completely self-guided to do whatever you want with that time.
Okay, our drop-off places, if you look on top of the map, that's Piazza del Popolo. Piazza in Italian means square, Popolo, people square, one of the most famous squares of Rome. That's the north access to the city center. Our Maurizio will take us as close as possible to People's Square. It's not possible just to drive into the square, but he will drop us off in Washington Street. If you look in the northeast of People's Square, you will see Washington Street.
I joined a Facebook group for the Marella Voyager, which was so useful because there's people that have done your itinerary, done your port, maybe done your exact excursion, and they share their experiences and answer any questions, so I definitely recommend joining if you're not already part of that group. There's loads of hints and tips, and from there I knew the drop-off point was going to be George Washington Street, so I was able to plan our day from there. We'd been to Rome before on our first holiday together 10 years ago, so we wanted to see our favourite sites again and squeeze in some new ones too, like the Trevi Fountain, which was under scaffolding last time we came.
So this was our rough plan for the day. To make the most of our time, we jumped on the metro to the furthest point, which was the Colosseum, and then we walked back towards the meeting point, seeing the sights and grabbing lunch and drinks along the way. Because of traffic, we arrived in Rome at about 10:45 AM. The meeting time was 4:45, so we actually had 6 hours in Rome instead of 7, but that was absolutely fine for us and our aching feet, but something to keep in mind when you are planning your day.
So
open it on these steps, isn't it?
Using the metro was easy as you can tap and go with a contactless card, just like you would on the London Underground. Just scan the same card on the way in and the way out. A one-way ticket was €1.50, or a 24-hour ticket was around €10 if you intend on making a few more metro trips. Just make sure to double check the prices before you travel in case they change. The nearest stop to the coach was Flaminio on the Orange Line. This has stops near the Vatican, Spanish Steps and Trevi Fountain. We travelled to Termini Station and then changed to the Blue Line, which takes you to the Colosseum and Roman Forum.
We were at the Colosseum for 11:15 and took some photos from the street behind. We then walked down the side of the Roman Forum to the Victor Emmanuel II monument, which is also known as the wedding cake as it is tiers of white marble.
Here you can also go up the panoramic lift to the roof for about €12 per person. We'd intended on doing this, but there were quite big queues. It was scorching, and to be honest, the views you get from the monument are great without going up the lift. There's a lovely view of the Colosseum from here.
We stopped at Vale Gelato Rome as we spotted macarons when we were walking past and couldn't resist.
At the back of the Pantheon is one of the 13 Egyptian obelisks brought from Egypt to Rome during the Roman Empire. This is the Elephant and Obelisk.
The Pantheon is another one of our favourite monuments. It's just so striking due to its size and its age. It's 2,000 years old. It's well worth a visit inside, which costs around €5 per person.
If you're on TikTok, anything that's recommended has enormous queues. Be prepared. We'd intended to go to this restaurant to get a sandwich, but the queues were just insane, and this was something we found throughout the day.
Instead, we continued to Piazza Navona and had lunch on the square.
Abbiamo o la coppa media con 3 gusti, questo è il prezzo, o grande con 5.
Cacio e Pepe?
Se dovete prendere la posata del signore.
Ah, ecco, certo, magari.
Obviously, lunch on the square is a tourist trap, but when you're only there for a day, it's a great way to enjoy the atmosphere, and the food here was actually really good. The total for 3 plates and 4 drinks was about €67, and the service was awesome too, 10 out of 10.
We then passed Gelato Sicily and grabbed a bottle of cold water and a scoop of gelato each. This cost €7.50. We both had the berry cheesecake flavour and it was delicious. We walked back past the Pantheon towards the Trevi Fountain, stopping at the Church of St Ignatius. Again, this was another TikTok find, claiming to be off the beaten track, but it was really busy. There was another huge queue here to take a selfie with the ceiling frescoes, but we just went and enjoyed the view without the picture, so no queuing was required.
The Trevi Fountain was a highlight as we hadn't seen this before. It was under scaffolding on our previous visit. We got there about 3 PM, so it was really busy, but we did manage to get down to the front. A couple asked us to take their photo and then we swapped with them and they took ours, so we managed to get a really awesome picture.
It was a case of get to the monument, take a picture, move on to the next.
When you only have a few hours to spend, it's a compromise of seeing 1 or 2 sites and getting the full experience and history, or a quick tour of as much as possible. I think there were huge benefits to us doing this day on our own, so that we could choose what we wanted to see and where we wanted to eat, but I do also love a proper guided tour because that's what really brings the history to life.
Made it through our whole plan except for Villa Borghese. There wasn't quite enough time. We had about an hour and we could have rushed it, but instead we chose to rest our feet at Piazza del Popolo and have another drink on the square. We met at the meeting point at 4:45. Everyone was ready, but again there was traffic, so the coach was a little late. There was no stop on the way back, but there was a toilet on the coach if anyone needed it. There was also no talk on the way home, so we could nap. We arrived back just after the all aboard time of 6:30, but as this was a Marella excursion, the ship had to wait for us, so this wasn't an issue.
Take comfy shoes, lots of water, a power bank for your phone for taking photos and using Google Maps.
And hand sanitizer and tissues in case you need them in the toilets.
We spent around €100 on food and drink. The sites were all free as we didn't go inside any.
Overall, we had a great day. We had such a great time seeing the sights, eating delicious food, and as we've been before, we thought it would be a nice short return visit, but it really made us want to book another trip here to spend a few more days at some point in the future. There's still so much of Rome we haven't seen, and we love the city so much. Hope you enjoyed the video. We've never vlogged before, but vlogs were invaluable to us while researching for this trip, so we wanted to make our own with the information we'd gathered. If you have an upcoming trip to Rome, have a fabulous time.